guys, Trisha from Flyquest here. We're now in week 7 of the LCS, and you know what that means? It's time for fish predictions. Every week, our little ocean friends come together and tell us who they think will be victorious. Get ready, little ones. Well, time's up, and it looks like the fish have chosen CLG.
CLG? CLG? Have you seen my boy? Play of the week, King Kong contracts? No, I know they both went 0-2 last week, but I'm out here for the Poom gang.
The next match is TSM versus Dignitas.
Is that even a question? Did you not see my boy DeMonte just outright blast him on Twitter? No. TSM can take this one because we don't want to see that one again. Do you want to see a malding freak? This is how we get a malding freak.
Immortals versus Cloud9.
Oh, interesting. You know, I'm out here for my boy Alorum. I mean, C9 would have to be off their game, of course. But you know I love me an upset. I'm out here rooting for Immortals out there.
Finally, Flyquest versus Golden Guardians.
Golden Guardians? The Golden Gods? What's that I hear? Oh, that's FBI coming to knock your door down. What's that I see? Oh, that's Closes Lee Sin coming to knock your head in. That's what I'm believing in. That's the faith that I have in Golden Guardians.
Suck it!
Thanks, everyone, and make sure you tune in for Week 7 of LCS. As always, let's showcase greatness together.
Gonna be hard to beat that opening. Hello and welcome back for another beautiful Saturday of LCS Countdown, where we're checking in on the LCS stock market and trading some top lane playing cards until the top of the hour, and we jump right into Champion Select. As always, I'm joined by the guys, and yesterday, Flyquest took down Team Liquid, which moved them up just slightly in the standings and dropped TL to second place, with Evil Genius's win making the postseason dreams of Immortals much more difficult as we approach the end of this split. I do think, though, in reaction to yesterday, all of the focus has to be on that TL loss, moving them a half game behind Cloud9.
I was thinking about that matchup, and the more I had it simmer in my mind, the more I thought Flyquest is a big mismatch for Team Liquid. There's no laners that they're going to be able to beat flat out with its CS, and individually, Flyquest doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. And when you actually put impact on the Cannon to try to abuse the Renekton, this ginormous blunder pretty much sealed the deal. You let the Renekton snowball, and Solo just ran away with it.
I mean, the rest of Flyquest played pretty well, too. I'm just disappointed in TL. They definitely did not have a great game, and this is right when we're hyping them up to, you know, we still thought C9 was the best team, but they at least were tied for the record. We had a battle for first coming in on Sunday, and they blew it. And now this puts all the pressure on Immortals to upset C9 so that they can actually get us back to the narrative of first versus first on Sunday.
Yeah,
Seems unlikely.
It's
not likely. I agree.
Hey now, right? I mean, we said it seemed unlikely when 100 Thieves was going up against Cloud9, and look what happened, right? And so I think if Summer's been proof of anything, it's that anything is possible. Today, we do kick things off with 100 Thieves versus Counterlogic Gaming, and then we'll have TSM going up against Dignitas with 2 more matches before we call it a day. I would say that today of all days does seem like one of the more lopsided when it comes to the team's records coming into each of the matchups. But heading specifically into that game 1, we've got a Counterlogic Gaming coming out of a rough week 6, and our own Mark Zimmerman did a breakdown of how their Sunday game versus Immortals went so poorly.
I wanted to take a look at the CLG versus Immortals game, both for their strategy and their execution of said strategy. CLG sees enough of Immortals draft to know that they are playing a poke comp, and draft Camille to create their own 4-1 comp. This is a good strategic answer to a lot of these poke comps that we're starting to see. Poke comps want to group up and slow play objectives, landing damage in standoffs until you can no longer contest them. A 4-1 comp will split to take objectives during that poke phase and put the poke team on a timer. IMT early map split on bot, which is fine for CLG who want to put the Camille ahead. Ganks and roams all go top, and even if the execution isn't perfect, Rune is getting his gold. After picking up Rift, Wiggly should flip his attention to Dragon. Camille, their win condition, is in a fine spot. They need to slow Immortal's win condition of Drake stacking. Stopping an opponent's win con is sometimes as important as advancing your own. Instead, Wiggly tunnels on getting Camille further ahead and trades second Drake for a push on top. An alternative play would be to Herald mid and control the Drake. The situation isn't fatal yet, they're just getting into dangerous waters. At the next Drake, CLG rotate down first with the Camille to make sure it doesn't get to soul point, but they are too afraid to actually walk into the river to control it. This strands Stixxay away from the team, and Immortals set up pretty well at the Drake. CLG hard engage, which is the correct decision, but failed the execution. Wiggly is too far ahead of the rest of the team and pops. Meanwhile, Rune dives onto the enemy tank. The hyper-invested top laner loses to the weak side tank, and they lose another Drake. Now, the situation's become dire. Soul point is up. Rune splits away down to lane here instead of flanking. The problem is that this split doesn't actually pressure Immortals into making a decision. They will happily lose bot inner turret for a soul. Rune can focus on the fight by wrapping around the blue buff and focusing on the flank, or they could have hard committed even before this and kept him split pushing top. They do neither, and again, Rune engages late onto the tank, and they lose the soul. Because of Immortal's great dragon stacking, it's only 28 minutes in, Elder is up, and they've already taken mid inhibitor. CLG face a tough problem here, but instead of hard committing to the split top or anything, Rune stays and hits minions in front of the mid outer, instead of finding the flank. He finally goes onto a carry this time, but again is way too late to combo with his team, as he was staying with the minions for too long. That's GG. CLG really misplayed their comp. They got their win con ahead, but then stopped using him to keep the pressure up. Even if they aren't stopping the Drakes, if Rune stayed side lane 24/7, you could have potentially put enough map pressure on to be advancing your own game plan. Instead, they stopped their win condition and played a Mortals game and lost as a result.
Very well done, Mark. Thank you for that very intense breakdown of the CLG victory. But I think what's interesting to me there is you pinpointed aspects of their early game which set them up very well for success, but that the follow-through wasn't there by pretty much every member, or at least the understanding wasn't there about how they would ultimately be able to close a game like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a fan of being able to play around top in this meta. I don't think it's super weird to go top or take Herald and trade for Dragon, but it has a lot of diminishing returns. So this is something like maybe you trade first Herald for first Dragon. That's fine. But the way CLG did it, where they were just trading every single Dragon for a top advantage, like they already got Camille off the ground. She was fine. And then what they ended up doing is they made the game shorter for themselves. When you play like this Camille Ornn, you want really long games because you want to give time for Camille to split push. And you saw in that last game at 28 minutes, they already had soul point and it was already on like the Elder Drake. So it was like, now you have to fight. So Camille had no time to split push, and the hitting minions mid lane highlight is the weirdest thing ever. That crushes my soul when I'm watching this super fed Camille like playing PvE while the Azir is engaging.
It's also the kind of thing, too, where even if the other team is stacking Drakes, you could also just be, continue trading out top. It was the fact that CLG stopped pushing top lane and started going to the Drakes, but they couldn't actually control them. That was like the super, nail in the coffin for their game plan.
So while there are some large questions surrounding CLG still, Crumbs, I think the same remains for 100 Thieves. Hard to nail this team down because they had such a tough test of their new lineup initially. Surprised us with the 2-0 first week, but followed that with an 0-2. Where are you on this squad?
I still really like 100 Thieves because they're one of the only teams, if not the only team outside of Cloud9 that is really prioritizing trying to win the game early. Specifically, Contract is playing really aggressively. They really want to help out Someday, who is a very proficient carry. So the fact that they were able to get some wins in that earlier, really strong strength of schedule bides really well in these next coming weeks because they're not going to be facing teams that will be easy, that will have an easy time fighting their early game. If it wasn't Team Liquid, where they just faced last week, where they actually were able to still get a gold lead, I think any other team below them would have still suffered a loss against 100 Thieves' early aggression. So I like where they stand a lot.
One of the easiest remaining strength of schedules for any of our teams. 100 Thieves currently standing at 4-8 in 8th place. So just inside that playoff picture, looking to improve. It's time for a quick commercial break, but as we go, he may be on break himself this week, but that won't keep our resident world champ from delivering some more sage advice.
And now, it's time for sage advice from a literal world champion.
The team that kills the Nexus often wins the game.
This has been sage advice from a literal world champion.
From the LCS team in sunny California, it's the return of LCS Game Show Week. Join us all weekend long for the competition, starting with Lane by Lane on Friday. Countdown, the game show, returns on Saturday with new games, new rules, and all your favorite contestants. Then, stick around for Sunday, where LCS Bingo gives fans the opportunity to win fabulous prizes.
Welcome back to the LCS Countdown. Next week, the LCS returns with the Game Show Week. And if you want to help test our analysts, take the survey on Twitter. Go check out the handle at LCS Official to submit your thoughts for Caster Feud. And make sure you tune in next week for the LCS Game Show. Mark, you were the previous winner, correct? In spring?
Was I? I don't even know because I never saw any winnings.
That's true. That's true. You did win. You won nothing, though, unfortunately. We'll see if we can get that changed this time around. Though as the playoff race heats up, so does the LCS stock market. We're heading into Week 7, so let's check in on the standings of both our analysts and our teams. Kobe riding high right now, almost 7K in valuation, the richest the stock market has ever seen for all three of the guys on my desk. What's going on? I mean, you're all up. That's the good news.
Positive. Yeah, we're positive.
I mean,
all that matters.
We're definitely positive, but we got to catch up. So that's why I'm definitely going for an all-in strategy this week.
Okay.
I am going to go full send on TSM. I think that they're a little undervalued, at least relative to their record. I love that picture of me. It's a great one.
Yeah, that's Business Mark. You guys don't. You guys don't run into Business Mark too often, but let me tell you, he's a.
Every time I get a phone call, it could be my mom, could be, IRS, just, what's this?
That's you talking to your mom?
Anyways, TSM, I think that they have a pretty winnable strength of schedule while having against decently strong opponents. Like, taking down EG will actually give them a bigger boost in their stock because they're closer together. And so even if they go 3-1 over the stretch, I still think it'll be pretty good. And I need TSM, even outside the stock market, to start being more consistent. We keep talking about the potential, the name brand power on that roster. Spica's starting to have some struggles. Broken Blade's having problems. Treats is probably a good step in for Biofrost, but we haven't seen it yet. So I want them to really get consistent over this stretch of games.
Wow, so Mark's indexing a little bit into his heart, not just his head there, wanting TSM to perform better, so he's going to throw his weight behind them. What about you, Crumbs?
Well, first of all, best they can do is 3-1, so I think it's all not aiming as high as possible. And so for me, I'm going for the top. I got to try to beat Kobe here, and 100 Thieves is not only cheaper than TSM, but does not play Cloud9. They've already beaten them, but I'm not counting on it happening again if they were to face off. So 100 Thieves, we went through their strength of schedule earlier. They've already gone past most of the stronger opponents, so now the second half should be a lot easier. And because they're a team that really likes to play the early game, I think that they'll have an easy time with these guys. So they've already beaten Flyquest one time. I think that they could do it again, and the other opponents should be easier than Flyquest. So I think that 100 Thieves has the biggest chance to give you the most money because everybody else that was cheaper had a much tougher schedule, including teams like Team Liquid or Cloud9.
I like the thinking there, Crumbs. Very, very logical in your approach. Probably, though, how are you going to make up the gap?
I'm going to kind of act like the bottom teams in LCS, where I'm not shooting for first place, but I'm still trying to break into playoffs. So I'm going with a solid stock EG. They had a roster swap last week. I think they're playing solid. Their win against C9 didn't look like a fluke. It wasn't a crazy draft advantage or crazy early game explosion. It was just solid gameplay throughout. And their upcoming schedule is probably the second easiest. Say like TSM's inconsistency. Don't see don't seem too much like a threat. And then Flyquest, again, had a good showing yesterday against TL, but again, very inconsistent team. So I think the way EG's playing will get me some money back, so I'm not in dead last. That's my goal.
That classic Prolly, shooting for second. Shooting for second, baby.
I'm being realistic. Come on.
Low expectations, can't be disappointed. Here we go.
We're not about realism here, Prolly. Come on. All right, we're going to dive into our top lane trading cards shortly. But before we do, here's a quick crash course on one of the longest-standing top laners in Impact, oversimplified.
Impact being a pillar of the top lane for so long, we figured you could use a refresher on the history of one of the only players to have a League of Legends skin in his honor. So here's Impact, oversimplified. Before his LCS days, Impact competed in a little-known tournament known as the Season 3 World Championship on a little-known team named SK Telecom T1. He and his band of babyface teammates would go on to win the Summoners Cup, starting an era of Korean dominance. Fast forward to 2015, some ups and downs in Korea would land Impact in North America on Team Impulse, a team that would make waves until their quest to Worlds would be thwarted by Cloud9's famous reverse sweeps. After a short stint on NRG, Impact would join Cloud9, establishing his own top lane kingdom for the squad, but was never able to translate it to an LCS title. After a couple years of quarterfinal runs, Impact would leave Cloud9 in 2017 for his new home on Team Liquid. Since then, he's picked up not just his first, but second, third, and fourth LCS title. Now, after Team Liquid's worst split since he joined, Impact aims to reestablish dominance and show the competition why he once lifted the Summoners Cup. And that's all you need to know in Impact, oversimplified.
Impact is one of the greats, but going into this week, we wanted to look at all of the top laners in the league, and Crumbs took it a step further with this week's tier list, giving a nuanced look at the two sides of a top laner. So, Crumbs, first break it down, hit us with the criteria, the different categories, and then we'll explain the list.
So at the bottom of your screen, you see that attack is all about being able to play carries and playing strong side, so that means you're getting counterpick, you're getting resources, you're getting ganks, you're getting a lot of teleports that are used for your own lane, whereas defense is more about you have the first blind pick, you are able to play without any resources, how well can you survive those ganks and then still be relevant in the later stages of the game. So those two things play into it, but also the champion pool. There's not a lot of variety here that these players have picked. Usually if you're playing strong side, you tend to pick a lot more carries than tanks, and if you play weak side, well, you barely have any tanks in your arsenal. And also, I want to indicate what do you notice here?
Yeah, I was going to call out, there's one extra distinction there, it seems, on the bottom. There isn't just attack defense. There's also an indicator for a specific champion itself.
Riven's a good champ, apparently, huh?
Yeah, Riven automatically boosts you to an 8. Too bad only one person in the league plays it. What I love about this is the fact that Viper's attack goes from 3 to 8 and his tier doesn't move, Crumbs. What's up with that?
Okay, so I made a mistake in the homework. This is I made this thinking almost like Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So that's a special effect, right? There's a special ability.
You played into my trap card.
He levels up.
Exactly, yes. So that's what I was thinking there.
Okay, now I understand. Let's dive into some of the individuals that you had on the list. Mark, who jumps out to you at first glance?
I got to talk about Someday first up for me. I mean, I think this has been a criminal underrating of his defense. I understand that 100 Thieves puts him as the attacker, and that's how we want to see him used. But you ask anyone, Someday's one of the best tank players in the league, and his weak side play is actually fine. It's not that he can't play defense, is that his team cannot win without him playing offense. So this is, I think, a more flexible card than you've given him credit for, Crumbs. I think his defense is way too low. His Ornn play is great. His weak side play is great. But his team needs him to always be on carries.
All right, Crumbs, defend your defense.
Okay, I totally agree. I messed up with Someday. I would have given him, I think, a 5 on the defense, but the card is intended to be played as an attacker. You
think he plays Ornn 5?
No, wait, hold on. I want everyone to hear this.
He's got 2 Ornn games.
Hold on. So
only 2.
What?
They lost.
People in the back. Crumbs is saying that Someday is the same as every other top laner in the league, by the way. Everyone is at 5 or above defense except for 1. So basically, Someday is tied for last place when he plays a tank as a top laner.
Yeah, Broken Blade's Ornn is as good as Somedays. Are you kidding me?
Okay. Okay, 7 and 6. Can we do that? Attack 7, defense 6. Is that fine?
You're lowering his. Why are you lowering his?
I would lower his attack. Attack is
balancing.
We can't make it too strong of a card. It has to be balanced.
Yes,
Otherwise,
because he's a strong top laner. He can be a strong card too.
Stop trying to game design the players, Crumbs.
I will give
Let the
Crumbs
community
credit.
balance, okay?
I will give Crumbs credit, though, about the whole idea, like, you're supposed to play it as an attack. So 100 Thieves Someday specifically. I know he was talking about this in rehearsal, that, like, if it's 100 Thieves Someday, then you have to play him in attack mode, which then I understand.
It's the encouragement, right? So
because the team itself doesn't know how to utilize him defensively.
Yep.
Okay.
We don't have the team modifiers on.
Oh, that's true. That's a whole. Hey, look, there will be a new LCS
expansion.
trading card game coming out to stores near you as soon as we figure out how that all works. All right, let's talk Impact though. We had the whole setup around Impact being one of the longest standing top laners in the world, let alone the LCS. And Crumbs, you've landed on a 5-7, so more defensively oriented here for Impact.
I think this is fair for him. You want to, again, like the card, you want to be encouraged in the highest value that it has, so you want to be usually playing Impact on the defense, but he has been able to win games if he's playing weak side. It's just that Team Liquid rarely plays him as that.
I think this
Probably
is
first.
All right, yeah. I'm going to say I think this is pretty close to accurate. I would maybe give one attack away and put it on defense because he does have a excessive tank pool in the top lane where other people can't. So I would say he's probably the highest defense. I would give that to him. And then, based on yesterday's Kennen game where he wanted to face check a Renekton as a Kennen, he loses one attack just from that play.
For that play alone.
Yeah, just insta knock it down.
I mean, that was definitely a big oopsie. Historically, maybe it's a 5, but coming off yesterday, it's a temporary nerf.
Yeah, temporary debuff.
It's a 4, but one of the stronger weak side players, which is almost an oxymoron in and of itself. But Impact has always impressed us on that tank play. Last, certainly not least, one of the top laners we want to talk about, Broken Blade. Ups and downs from his first joining the LCS last year to now. This has been one of the toughest top laners for me to assess personally.
With
the
exception,
you want to defend this?
Yeah, well, with the exception of Someday, which we have agreed was a mistake in the rating, 5 defense is the lowest defense you could go. So he's basically on par with all the other players that are playing weak side, and his carries haven't been that great. He had a pretty terrible, I think, week 5, where he struggled a lot on the Wukong and the Mordekaiser, but when he actually gets some resources, he does have a pretty strong story. So I think the jungling synergy is playing into Broken Blade, but I think he's solid. That's why I wanted to
Probably you want to take this on.
Actually, I don't know. I'm pretty excited. Can we just both yell at the same time? No, I'm just kidding. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and say both these numbers are too high for this split. We haven't seen him do those, Kiana flanks that he was doing in spring or anything like that. So I think his strong side doesn't look great. It's mostly he gets lane push and then his jungler and mid laner come dive. I don't give all the credit to Broken Blade for that. He just got lane push. Good job. His team played well. But then when he's on weak side, he's still taking resources when he doesn't need them. I'm watching their bot lane break tempo to help him or their jungler break tempo to help him. So I really don't like his weak side. I'd actually rather have a lot of these other, tank top laners play tanks if I had to, than have Broken Blade play them.
The only defense I'll give for Broken Blade is that I do think his mechanics are pretty good. There are some weak side players who are definitely on the weak side a little bit for other reasons than how the team wants to play. And I don't think Broken Blade is one of those. And I totally agree with Prawley's points about macro misplays and, seemingly not being able to play weak side oriented strategy correctly. But at least he plays the tank super well, which I think he deserves credit for. His Ornn is actually pretty clean a lot of the time. It's just the other parts of the gameplay that can be behind.
I want it to be relative to the other players, because if the lowest is 3-5, I'm not going to put Broken Blade in the lowest category. I got to put him above that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So some discrepancies in how we would rate maybe people individually on those statistics. But probably, Mark, do you guys genuinely agree with the tiering? So the S to A to B to C tiers that Crumbs had for our top laners generally falls in the right buckets?
I would have definitely thrown a D tier in there. I'm a
Oh, wow.
Getting low.
Okay.
That's a classic Mark Z, though. I'm surprised he didn't jump all the way to the Fs, right? Just straight up give someone a fail. All right. Well, a reminder that the State Farm Analyst Desk is facing off against the Flyquest Fish Gods in our predictions game this week. They are currently tied. Granted, there's only 2 games behind us, so it's a tight race going into Saturday's games. First, let's take a look at your predictions, see how the 3 of you stand on today's games. Only one difference between the 3 of you, and that comes in the 3rd game today. Golden Guardians for Crumbs over Flyquest. So, Crumbs, hit me with the reasoning.
So I think Golden Guardians has been looking pretty good. They've been improving steadily, and because they play early game much more fiercely than Flyquest, I think they have a good matchup there. I was looking at a lot about Flyquest, and we heard from their interviews they are predictable in the draft. You do really get to know exactly what they're going to go about. Their champion pools are not very varied, and I think that's exactly where Golden Guardians is going to strike and get the dub against the Fishes, because we need them to lose. We cannot stand as humans losing to sea critters that have better prediction abilities. We just won't stand for it.
Yeah, I was going to say I would have had Golden Guardians as well, if not for the game previously. I think Flyquest is looking a lot better, and they acknowledge their draft problems.
Well, Flyquest is looking a lot better. How about the Fish and their predictions? They have CLG, TSM, Flyquest, and Cloud9. How do the 3 of you reconcile these?
Have they ever predicted against Flyquest?
I have not seen it on air.
I'm telling you, I exposed the sham yesterday. They're sprinkling more food on one side when they do the Flyquest prediction.
Oh, okay. So some tampering. All right. We've got an accusation laid bare on the LCS today. All I care about is who wins the race, though. An update as well on the Sequest initiative. After Friday's games, $3,474 has been raised for the Coral Reef Alliance. To learn more or contribute yourself, check out Flyquest.gg. Love to see those environmental pushes going on, and with our teams kind of leveling up their brand per usual. Great follow-up from Flyquest from spring to summer. That's going to do it for us, though, here on the Analyst Desk. So now it's time to send it over to Captain Flowers and Kobe for Game 1 of the day.